SOPs. Thank you, sir.
The Honourable Mark Mitchell.
Speaker, it's a pleasure to stand and take a call on this, the Crime Amendments Bill. Could I acknowledge the Minister in the House who has brought the bill to this House and shepherded it through. We do support the bill. I think that previous speakers have already spoken about the fact that we'd like a more nuanced approach around the year and a day, but the committee will have a chance to talk about that. Can I acknowledge the Chairman of the Justice Select Committee, because he's quite right. We've had a heavy workload this year, 20 bills, and of course we've been listening to very important submissions around the Privacy Bill and the End of Life Bill as well, and getting around the country. So can I just acknowledge him and the other members of the Justice Select Committee. I've enjoyed working with you this year. Hope that you have a great Christmas break, and we'll be back into it in the new year, I'm sure. Just very quickly, this bill covers off section 71(2), which protects spouses and civil union partners in cases where they would otherwise be an accessory after the fact. I think, Mr Speaker, this is a really important part of the bill in terms of a repeal, because although I recognise that, that wives and spouses in a relationship are always subject sometimes to coercion or force or threats that can affect their behaviour, actually I don't think that we should, as a country, should accept the fact that they're able to actually assist a spouse and they're somehow immune from the justice system like everyone else is. So I think that this is a very, very good move. I think that our agencies now are able to work out some of those complicated cases and deal with them appropriately, but we should not be using laws in New Zealand to say that we're going to give you protection to help actually facilitate a crime and somehow give you protection from our justice system. So I think that that's a very good move. In fact, me personally, I would go further, and this is for another discussion, another bill, in terms of when we see young Kiwis killed, when we see children killed, and you see the family come around them, and this cloak of invincibility and silence comes up, I actually think as a parliament, as a country, we should be doing something about that. And actually we shouldn't be allowing people not to give information to the police, not to help with an inquiry, not to assist in finding out what happened to that young person or that child. But that is, I know the Minister is in the House, and maybe that's a further discussion that we could have, because I think there could be some very good work done around that. Well, the Kahu twins are a great example, that's absolutely right. Blasphemous libel, this was fairly simple. We did hear quite a few submissions on this. We did listen very carefully to those submissions. We heard concerns that the repeal would encourage hate speech against God, incite violence and remove a safeguard for religious freedom. It was suggested that the repeal would disrupt the maintenance of wholesale boundaries in the media and would insult God and the Christian foundations of New Zealand. We listened closely to that, but we actually just felt that this legislation is well and truly outdated. It didn't reflect a secular society in terms of where we are as a country, whilst also remembering actually that Christianity and religion has been a big part of our country's history as well, and will continue to be. Arguments in support of repeal included the idea that the current law is an unwarranted restriction on the right of freedom of expression.
Order. The member suffers from some disadvantage because I've got a copy of the speech that he's reading. The member's not allowed to read speeches. He's especially not allowed to read the explanatory note. He's read a whole paragraph out and now he's just started again.
Yeah, Mr Speaker, I'm trying to reflect back the submissions that were made to us. Bearing in mind there were 24,
members' own words.
trying to sort of condense those for the House and reflect the submitters' submissions to us, because I think that is important when we get up in the House and we speak to these bills, that we are able to do that. But I will condense it, and I will say that after hearing all the submissions around the blasphemous libel, is that fundamentally we did as a committee listen to that very carefully. We did have a debate in the committee about it, but we felt that it was not necessary to make any changes to the proposal in the bill and the shape in which the bill was being reported back to the House. Sorry, what was that? Did someone make, sorry, what was the comment? Get on with it.
Well,
that's right.
Can I just say that was not that helpful, and now that the member has been interrupted, I will tell him that he mustn't reflect on my rulings after I've made them in the way that he did. He's a highly competent debater, can speak very well without notes, and certainly doesn't need to read out whole tracts of printed material that's already on the table of the House.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Death. So if I come to section 1, the final repeal around section 162, death must be within a year and a day. This has been well canvassed in the House. The previous Speaker addressed what we've been talking about in the House today as very good examples. The CTV tragedy and also the Cave Creek tragedy. I think that it's a huge anomaly. I've never been able to understand a year and a day rule, especially when you reflect back on modern times now. We live in a golden age in terms of medical science, and we can probably all reflect back and think of a situation where someone may have been involved in a car accident that wasn't their fault, and they're being kept alive and kept on life support easily for a year or over a year. Or, you know, let's take the case I think someone raised where with a coward punch. I think it might have been Derek Ball in his address to the House. A coward punch where someone is punched, they fall, they hit their head on the curb, and actually they're kept alive, you know, for up to a year or over a year. Well, actually, the act of that coward punch is still just as relevant a year and a day later than it was at the time of the assault. So I actually think that this too is a very good repeal of this bill. Finally, I just want to acknowledge the Justice Minister again for making sure that this comes through the House. I want to acknowledge the comments that were made by the Honourable Maggie Barry in recognising the Honourable Amy Adams, because she's the one that did a lot of work on this and the architect around the bill that we actually currently have in the House. So can I acknowledge her and the team that put that work and effort in. So finally, Mr Speaker, very happy to take a call, very happy to recommend the bill to the House, and looking forward to it coming back to the committee. Thank you.
Golriz Gaharaman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise in support